I discussed the issue last time with this sort of starter fractal that I had made, and how it's only kind of a fractal. It kind of depends on how you're defining it. And then I went a little bit further and I sketched out what would be a better idea of what most of us think of as a fractal, looking something like this, where it's repeating multiple versions of itself at a smaller degree. So not just a single version of itself repeating like in the previous clip, but instead like this. So now we need to actually make it. How do we do that? I'll go ahead and launch PyCharm. And I briefly explained this a little bit, right? Like you make a function and you call that function, but inside of that function, you also need to call itself. So I'm just going to create a new Python file, and we'll call this, I don't know, line fractal, since that's kind of what it is. Resize this a little bit. That looks pretty good. All right, so let's start with a few comments. This might have a different name. I'm sure I'm not the first one to come up with this type of fractal, since it's extremely easy to generate and easy to think about. But I'll just call it that. All right, so first thing we need to import turtle, right? After importing turtle, it'd be a good idea to do load window, and keep in mind this is just a variable, so you can call it whatever you want. Which the important part is this turtle dot screen. I always like to name my turtle, so today's turtle will be named Stacy. Stacy equals turtle dot pin, right? Yeah, that's fine. Oh, wait, this is all set up, so let's put a little documentation here. So set up. Let's tell Stacy to use pinup because I don't want her drawing things yet. And we'll say Stacy dot go to 0, -100. All right, so what we're doing is we're going to have Stacy start down here-ish. So that's kind of why I'm doing the -100 thing. That's probably not far enough down. It's probably closer to right here, but it'll get us going in the right direction. We can tweak it later if we want. Now we'll say Stacy dot pin down, and I forgot speed. We'll do speed up here. So dot speed 0, so that way Stacy jumps there instantly. All right, so now we're going to do defining our function, and we'll do def, and we'll say draw fractal, and inside of here we're going to put a couple variables. Well, yeah, we have to. You can't really get around it. So I'm going to do length, and I'm going to do depth, and this is going to be how long that line is, this line, and depth is going to be like how many next lines it gets to. And that will make sense in a moment. So very first thing, Stacy, go forward, and this is going to be that length. So Stacy is going to go forward that length. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an if statement in here. So if depth is greater than 1, then we're going to do stuff. And so what this does is this limits the fractal. So like as I mentioned in the previous video, we can't draw little lines forever. Like we're going to get bored or tired or whatever. And same thing for the computer. You want the computer to eventually stop as well. So that's what this depth is doing. It's telling it when to stop. So once depth is no longer above 1, then it will stop. And I mean, you could switch this to 0 if you want. I just chose 1. So now we have instructions for Stacy. So Stacy is going to go backward, and it's going to be, once again, length, but it's going to be divided by 2 because Stacy needs to go back to halfway to draw the next line. And then Stacy is going to turn left by 90 degrees because, once again, turning 90 degrees. And now Stacy is going to not draw a new line because, I mean, we could do dot forward in here, but then we're building like multiple layers inside of the same function, and we're not actually using recursion. So to use recursion, we should recall this same little bit. Right, that's okay. So I'll go ahead and not use recursion yet. I'll use recursion in a moment. So I'm going to put like Stacy dot forward, and this will be length, but it's going to be like length divided by something. Like what I did before, I did like 500 and then to like 400, right? So that's like, it's like divided by 1.2, something like that. And then Stacy needs to turn right 90 degrees. Wait a minute. Okay, nope, just kidding. This needs to be divided by a little bit more than 2 because it's only half of what it's actually going to be. So like 2.1 or something. I think I have that right. And then Stacy's going to turn right 90 degrees, 180 degrees because it needs to go the other direction. And Stacy's going to go forward again. And this will also be length divided by like 2.1 or something like that. And I can tweak these values later. Afterwards, Stacy needs to turn right again by 90 degrees and go forward by length divided by 2. I think I'm doing all this right. We'll see. And then we're going to get out of this, right? So this should be that little crossbar. I think I did it right, that little crossbar. And then Stacy is going to turn right by 180 degrees and then go back forward by length. And I think that should put Stacy back where she started. We'll see what happens. So we haven't called the actual function yet. So now we need to say draw fractal, and we'll put the length equal to, I don't know, like 400 or something. And I'll put some depth in here, but I'm not actually using depth yet, so it doesn't really matter. But that's okay. And then this is basically run function. And this is exit, and the exit command is that turtle dot exit on click. Alright, so now if we run this, let's see what happens. I think I did that right, but you know, there might be a bug in here and we can always just fix it if we need to. Line fractal. Oh, well, look at that. There's already an issue. I forgot the semicolon. Alright, we good? There we go. Okay, so that did part of it, but that didn't do the whole thing. So Stacy, hang on, Stacy. Let's see what Stacy actually did. So I'm gonna make this smaller so I can see it. And run again, Stacy. Alright, so Stacy went this way, went back, went up, turned around, came back, then went there. Alright, so that's pretty good. So, but I only got halfway to what I wanted. So to draw the other half, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay that I didn't do the whole thing. To draw the other half, I basically just need to tell Stacy to turn around by 180, which is turning around, and then draw fractal again, and we'll just put in the same values. So now if we try it, there we go. There was a little bit of extra code in there, obviously. I don't know, not sure what with the extra running about, but you get the idea. Overall, it worked. So ran it once, turned around, ran it again. Now the issue here is there's not multiple layers, and I could just keep doing additional ifs in here, but why? What good is that going to do? So instead, what I need to do is, instead of telling Stacy to go forward to draw this line, Stacy instead needs to just run its own program. So this will instead be draw fractal, and we need to put in our length and our depth. I'm just going to keep it calling the same length, and I think I'll keep that divided by 2.1. I think that's right, but we'll see. If it messes up, then it messes up. and this will be depth. But it can't just be depth, because otherwise, like, it'll never be less than 1. So this needs to be depth minus 1. And we just want to do the same thing on this next one. And let's see if that did what I wanted it to do. Ooh, there we go. Ooh, it's doing some weird stuff with all that flying around. So I do have some extra code in there that's not needed. But you can see overall that the turtle is drawing a fractal.